What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside, decent.
He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes, and Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller, on for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day.
Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class.
Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello and welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redman, head of our midweek clash at Turf Moor against Hull City under the lights. Hopefully the weather's improved by then, but at least it's not raining as I record this. Famous last words, by the time I finish it, it will be pissing it down. But as usual, we are joined by a fan of the opposition, and I'm pleased to introduce Ant from the Hull and Back podcast. How you doing, mate?
I am fine, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Obviously, you were on once last time we were in the Championship, so it's good to have you back, mate. It's good to have you back, and it's good to see you doing well as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, doing well is maybe a bit of an overstatement, but we're surviving at the minute.
Yeah. Just edging out of the relegation zone. Obviously, we'll get into that in a little bit on your thoughts on the relegation fight. But what are your thoughts on your season so far? Because you could probably divide sort of that whole season into 2 parts, couldn't you? Obviously, your time under Volta and your time under Sellers. So, as a whole, how's it gone so far?
It's been a horrendous season, really. I mean, it's just mistakes made from the top, lazy transfer window in the summer. Just all acclimatised to make this absolute car crash of the first 6 months of the season. I don't think we realistically expected to be challenging the top 6 again with the quality of players that we lost in the summer. It was never realistic. We were never going to replace that quality again and have the same standard. So it was all about rebuilding, but maybe having a nice solid mid-table season where we flirt with the top 6, but don't quite get there. But no, nobody expected us to quite be in a relegation battle. So that was quite an eye-opener. But, you know, like you say, when you're bringing in managers like Tim Volter who have chaotic systems and insist that they're the problem, not the player. The players are the problem, not the system. And spend the first half of the transfer window signing absolutely nobody. I guess that's what happens. So, yeah, like we've tried to rectify now by bringing Sayers in, and we've had a good January transfer window. So let's just hope that we can stay in the league and go again a bit better next year.
You said something there I didn't think I'd ever hear any Hull fans say. You kind of criticised the people at the top. Obviously, you're big fans of your owners at Hull. They do a lot of good stuff, free away travel, things like that. Is the love for the owners dying a little bit, or are you just aware they've made a couple of mistakes, but you still love them, sort of thing?
Yeah, no, they're still highly thought of. Adrian's just a very eccentric and excitable guy is the problem, I think. He runs the club like a passionate fan, which I think some people would see as a bonus, but when you're running a football club, you need to kind of be a bit more organised and planned in what you're doing. And I think with what happened in the summer was he got inducted onto the board of directors at Fenerbahce, which is the club he supports, obviously over in Turkey. And he spent the first half of that window sort of sorting out their Champions League team, which meant that we kind of got put on the back burner. So the people that were left, staff-wise, which was Tank Kesley, who's now been sacked, we don't know what happened there. He just wasn't. He didn't have that same aura to bring players in like Adrian did. So we lost all these fantastic players, and we was bringing nobody in. The biggest concern was that we were bringing in no goal scorers. We lost 90% plus of our goals last season with Philogene, Delat, Carvalho, Tyler Morton. Aaron Connolly, all gone, and we didn't bring any goal scorers in. So that was a real worry anyway. And then we didn't get our business done till we played 3 or 4 games of the season already. So you've got to then wait another few games for these new players to acclimatise to this new, very chaotic system and stuff. So it was. We know he made a mistake in summer. He's admitted that he made a mistake in summer, but like we say, he's made up for it now. He's gone out and got a really good, promising manager that I think the vast majority of the Championship would have taken, and had a really good January transfer window. So now it's just all about sort of finding a bit of stability now and hoping that we can keep Sayers for the next few years, because we need a period of calm, because it's just been a bit chaotic since he's come in. But yeah, it's we all know he makes mistakes. He's only human, but yeah, we still love him.
Yeah, fair enough. I think obviously first things first is just survive, and then hopefully you can then kick on as well. But I'll get your predictions for the relegation battle later on. I do want to talk about your inconsistent form though. Nothing sort of like summed up perfectly than your last 2 results, which were an impressive win at Bramall Lane, and thank you for that, by the way. We really enjoyed that one. And then losing at home to Stoke, and out of your last 6 games, you've won 2, lost 2, and drawn 1. It feels like there's a good side in there, but a little bit inconsistent just looking at them results.
It depends on where we play. Away from home, we're absolutely fantastic. I think the last 3 games away from home we played, we went to Blackburn, Millwall, and Sheffield United, which are 3 really tough away days, and we won all 3 without conceding, which is, for us this season, clean sheets are a hard thing to come by. So that's really good going. But at home, horrendous. Like, we are the worst team in the league at home by far. I think we've only won twice at home all season. But away from home, I believe we're like 8th or 9th in the table. So it just shows you that if we'd have even been semi-competent at home, we'd be nowhere near the bottom 3. The home form is killing us. It's been like it for a few years. I think since we got promoted back to the Championship under McCann when we was relegated to League One, we've only won 20 odd out of 80-something league games at home, and I don't know why. It's been different managers, it's been different players, different systems. Different standards of the team as well, and it's just still the same. Even last season, our home form was our Achilles heel and made us miss out on the top 6. So it's an absolute mystery. But yeah, like we say, we're a bit more confident. I think if we had every single game from now to the end of the season away, we stay up comfortably. But the biggest problem is we've got all of the teams around us at home to come, so that's a real worry. Because if we lose to them, then we are really putting nails in the coffin. So. But no, we're strangely optimistic about going to Burnley because we're so much better away. Like, I'm much more confident about getting a result away at Burnley than I was at home to Stoke. And then it just showed because we lost at home to Stoke, and now we've got Burnley next. It's like, all right, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, well, that's frustrating to hear that you are very good away from home, obviously. We're kind of similar, not to that extreme, but we're kind of similar. We can't really kick on at home. Pick up 1-0s and a lot of 0. We haven't lost at home yet this season, but we've drawn too many. But away from home, we pretty much win every single week. And we are top of the away form table in the Championship. Like, we are very, very good away from homes, and that is a bit of a mystery. Anyway, going back to the manager situation, obviously Sayers come in early December. What's different then between his Hull team and the Tim Volter Hull team?
Organisation, straight away. Tim Volter's system was perplexing, to say the least. It was the goalkeeper was having more touches than anybody else on the pitch, which in nowadays football is, I think even Guardiola would be like, what the hell? We used him basically as an outfield player. He would push out of his box and we'd pass it across the back 4, and we only seemed to go down the wings. We just completely bypassed the midfield, which arguably had our best players. So we were missing out on the creativity of some of our midfield players and going down each wing, and then if it didn't happen, we'd go all the way back down to the defence, play it between the keeper again for 5 minutes, and go down the other wing and just rinse and repeat. And it was so bizarre. Defensively, was so much better. We're actually keeping clean sheets. We're actually difficult to beat. Under Volta, we were constantly giving away soft goals. Like in terms of counter attacks from set pieces, we'd leave absolutely nobody back. If you watched us on telly against Sheffield United, they literally scored twice from our own corners. So it just shows you where we were under Volta. But like I say, under Sayers, the players now, the effort has increased tenfold. The press is organised. The press higher. They seem to play with more of a purpose. The possession has a purpose rather than just playing, 60 minutes of it amongst the back 4. So yeah, it's about now whether or not these new signings, because we did make 8 signings in January, we're starting to see that Sayers ball come through a bit more now. So once they settle and get used to it a bit more, and we start to have more of a settled starting 11, I think, because we are chopping and changing quite a bit at the minute. But like I said, under Sayers, it's just the optimism's lifted, the effort's lifted, chances created have lifted, the goal scored have lifted, and the clean sheets have also improved. So it's just literally tenfold. I think if we'd have started the season with Sayers and not Walter, we'd be nowhere near the bottom three. So it's just about him now cleaning up that mess and getting through this what's been a horrendous season.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed beyond that one. Judging by the things you've just said about Walter, and you said at the start of the show, I would imagine you think it was the correct decision to sack him then.
Oh, 100%. It happened way too late. We needed to do it earlier. It was clear the players weren't playing for him. Apparently, I mean, this is obviously speculation at this point, but apparently he had him in for training literally about 24, 25 days in a row with no days off. I think Casey Palmer said he didn't see his family for 3 weeks. Like, we was getting injuries consistently from it as well. I think so. You can believe it in a sense because we lost two of our best wingers in Ballumi and Miller for the full season with ACLs within a week of each other. Casey Palmer's had a few long-term injuries. He's due to come back soon. Charlie Hughes, one of our best defenders, he's also spent a long time out because of it. So yeah, it's been very bizarre. I think the players tried to, but from what you can gather from interviews and stuff like that, Burstow, Palmer, they've all said similar things where he didn't really want to be spoken to. If you went to him with an issue and or asking why you're not playing or why you're not playing in your position, he didn't want to hear it. His way or the highway kind of thing. So when you've got that kind of manager, it's never going to work. You've got to be able to put your arm around players. And I think that's the first thing Sayers said when he came in his press conference was, "My door's always open. My assistant's door's always open. If you've got a concern, come see us, come talk to us." And you've got to have that kind of culture. So, but with Volta, we were heading one direction, and he should have done it in the international break. He didn't. He waited until after. I think the problem is the owner didn't see the toxicity in the stadium, and he just presumed that he was okay. And then when he came to the Sheffield Wednesday at home game, which was Volta's last game, he went on the radio before the match and said, even if Volta loses, he's still got a job. And then he saw the reaction of the fans in the stadium to Volta. We obviously lost that game 2-0. And that's probably the angriest I've ever seen our stadium in my 30 years of life. Like, he was despised by everybody at the club. And I think the owner saw that and went, "Oh no, fair play, I can't keep him," and then sacked him about 2-3 hours later. But yeah, it needed to happen sooner.
Yeah, fair enough. I love stuff like that, the eccentricity of it all. No, he's still got a job. I don't know, maybe not. I do love that kind of. But it's good to see him reacting in what you guys see as a positive manner to something that you wanted to happen. I do just want to rewind a little bit. You've probably been asked about this a million times, but I want to get your thought on it. It's the sacking of Liam Rosenior. Looking back, I think at the time, obviously you'll know more. You're a Hull fan. That's why we get Hull fans or opposition fans on the show, because you know more. Outside looking in, I was like, that's a weird decision. I hope they don't come to regret that. Then you get Volta in, and I think they're probably going to regret that, and then you regretted it. I mean, now you probably don't regret it because you've got Sayers, but at the time I thought it was a strange one. But what were your thoughts on it at the time?
Yeah, it is a very interesting one because, like you say, everybody outside of Hull City sees it as a very bizarre one. But ultimately, when you look at last season, I think originally the aim wasn't the top six. The squad we had at the first 6 months, I mean, even Liam Delap, I know he's tearing it up in the Premier League at the minute, but when we signed him, he was on the back of 2 failed loan spells at Stoke and Preston that were in the same season, and the worst striker they've ever seen play, kind of thing. And we also brought in Philogene, who had a decent season at Cardiff, but not really lit up the league in that kind of thing. So we had these potentially good players, but not really an outstanding team. But Rosenior's had to beat style got us to, within the top 6 echelons come December, and I think the aim changed. But the problem was the style of play. So our owner's big on entertainment. The first thing that happened when he took over the club, we had attendances less than 10,000. A lot of the fans had stayed away, boycotting on the old owners, disillusioned with the club. That connection had gone. So he knew instantly he had a job on his hands to try and bring fans back, which he has done. We're getting consistently over 20k again. Absolutely fantastic ticket prices. Food's absolutely phenomenal. It's literally the best away day in the league. If you guys went to City last time out, I know it was a draw, but you usually get a point or something and really good food. So, but it came down to he wants to be entertained. So he's had a couple of quotes that have been taken out of context where he says something like, "I'd rather lose 4-3 than draw 0-0." He means like consistently. He wants entertainment games, lots of goals. He don't want to watch dull games. And unfortunately, under Rosenior, it was a very, very boring style of play. I think you guys were experiencing something similar under Parker, where people would be surprised that Burnley fans are quite unhappy. Well, some I've spoke to aren't the biggest fans of Parker, yet you sat in a promotion race. You know what I mean? So from the outside, it looks bizarre, but the style of play is horrendous. Like at home, we were really poor, really one-dimensional, couldn't break down teams that sat back. And by the end of the season, we had a fantastic team. Fabio Carvalho, Jadon was absolutely mint last season. Delap was amazing. Aaron Connolly was scoring goals. Ozan Tufan, Tyler Morton, Jacob Greaves. We had a really good team, and that should have been in the top six. And we missed out because we won only 3 of our last 13. Really bizarre team choices and subs. So I think it was justified. And one of them, I was sat on the fence. If they'd have given him another year to try and rectify the system and try and be a bit more adaptable, I'd have been fine with it. But also the sacking, although it came as a surprise, I was like, I get it. Because there was only about 5, I could count on one hand the amount of times I came away from a home game last season and thought we played really well. And that's the thing that he was focusing on. Obviously, we didn't get the top 6, which was the aim by the end. And the style of play was dull. So I think he made the decision. But you've got to get the replacement right. And we really didn't. So it makes it look worse. Like you say, when people look at it and we've got brought in Tim Volter, they're like, why did they get rid of him for him? Like, we don't know why he did that. But the sacking can be justified. The replacement, if you'd have brought Sayers in, it'd have been like, all right, yeah, fair play. But no, when you bring Tim Volter in, it sort of accentuates the whole situation.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think the Volta thing made it look 10 times worse than what it actually was. And I was going to say then, your order said he'd rather see you lose 4-3 than draw 0-0. I was going to say, I hope he's not watching on Wednesday then, because the chances are it's going to be a low-scoring game, potentially 0-0 or 1-0 either way. If we manage to do things that we've done in pretty much every game this season, which should just kill any entertainment value. Sticking with your current manager then, what is his playing style? You mentioned earlier sort of like possession with a purpose. Is that kind of what it is then, where you let us have the ball and then potentially try and hit us on the counter?
Yeah, I think I think Sayers is one of these managers who would prefer to have most of the ball, but he's quite happy to change and adapt tactically to the other team. So we know that Burnley are going to want the majority of the possession, and a lot of it's going to be amongst the back four. So I would expect us to approach the game with a really high press, because that's what we've sort of been working on the most. We've brought in grafters, we've brought in people with high energy, we've brought in people who aren't afraid to get stuck in. We saw it at Sheffield United, where it's really effective. You know, a team wants to try and dominate the ball, and we just get in the faces and make it really uncomfortable for them. And when we win the ball, just make sure that we're taking our chances. And that's, I think, is going to be the approach at Burnley. We'll probably let you have the ball, but the front three will harass you all game. We've got a lot of energy up there, a lot of intelligence. I think he'll probably start with someone like Carl Joseph, because he's he started at Sheffield United and he just runs his socks off. Gellart will probably start because he runs his socks off. We've got Matt Crooks as well, who's a bit of a grafter and he's afraid to get stuck in. So we've got players now who are up for the fight, which is the main thing. And I think in order to get points at places like Burnley, like Sheffield United, you've got to be able to have 90 plus minutes of pure effort and endeavour.
Yeah.
Maybe not having a game on the weekends done us a favour, because it's a few extra days of rest. Obviously, Cardiff, we were meant to have. It was meant to have a cup game, but Cardiff we were meant to have, but Cardiff went through and we went out in the cup, so it got rearranged. So we've had some extra time off, hopefully a bit more time on the training pitch and working on what we need to do. But we'd be happy with the point at Burnley. We'd snap your hands off for it. But we're actually going there and we're thinking we could win. That's the strange mindset to have. Like I said, I think it'll be 0-0 or 1-0 either way, one of those games. But it comes down to whether or not we can finish our chances. Away from home, we tend to be good at doing that. At home, not very much. But it's going to be an interesting one, because, like we say, at least Sayers is the kind of manager who changes and adapts tactically to who he's facing, rather than just saying, this is my way of playing, I'm going to play it regardless, like your Russell Martins and your Liam Roseniors and your Tim Bolton. So,
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned there that you're going to come at us and press us high. We've struggled against teams this season that just sit in 2 banks of 4 and say, come and break us down. And that's why you look at Burnley's home form and you got a 0-0 against Derby, a 0-0 against Preston, a 0-0 against QPR, Stoke, the list goes on, a lot of 0-0s, because teams are refusing to play. So they just sit there in 2 banks of 4. However, some teams have come at us with a high press, and we've been able to pick them off. It depends how good your press is, because when Sunderland came to the turf and did that, we struggled against them. Still 0-0. Leeds came to the turf. They obviously didn't sit back their presses very well, and both of them 2 teams won the midfield battle. So how is your press and how is your midfield? Because I think if you get the press right, you can sort of like disrupt us. But if you get it wrong, that's when we win games and win games comfortably.
yeah, again, like away from home, our press seems to be spot on. I think that was the main reason why we managed to get results at Sheffield United like we did, was because I think we took them by surprise with how organised we are. Like, Volta tried to do a press, but it was literally just one player picking and choosing when he does it. And you can't do that. It's got to be pressed as a team. or you leave it because you just leave yourself susceptible to the counter. But under Sayers is everyone understands who they're meant to be pressing and when. And like I say, we signed a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and they will just constantly run the socks off and try and force errors from Burnley and try and win the ball back high. The midfield is arguably our strongest point of the entire team. We've got players here who probably shouldn't be at Hull City. Stephen Alzate is a level above. He's a Premier League player. Absolutely fantastic. Wouldn't be surprised if he got a big money move in summer to a Premier League team. We signed him on a free from Brighton, and he's just spectacular. He's you give him the ball in any area of tight space, he'll spin the defenders and progress us forward. We signed Elliot Matazzo from Monaco. He's got Champions League experience this season with Monaco. He's played nearly 100 games for them. He's only 22. So I don't think you play that many games for Monaco if you've not something decent. He got his first goal and his first start against Stoke and looked really good. Again, similar play to Alzate. He's big, he's burly, he's strong, he's happy with the ball in tight spaces. We've got Gus Puerta, who I think he had a really good game against Burnley at home, actually, as well. So, but he hasn't been playing lately because there's been we have to buy him if he plays 23 games, and I think he's near that. So they've kind of benched him for the bit. But he's absolutely phenomenal. We brought Matt Crooks in, who's big, burly, likes to challenge, got a good goal in him, as we've seen at Sheffield United. He pops up with important goals. So yeah, the midfield for us is crucial. Like if we can win those battles, like you say, the individual battles, we will force the game down the trajectory that we want it to go in, which is the most important thing, because we struggle if, like Middlesbrough at home is the straight example I go to, whereas if a team is possession-based but can get it around us, we really struggle because we're just chasing shadows all game and we struggle to create anything and get our foot on the ball. But if we get it right, like we did at Sheffield United, then we really can sort of force the game down where we want it to go. And I think that's what we can try and do against Burnley because, like we said, a lot of your possession is going to be amongst your back four and midfield kind of thing. So if we can try and press high and make sure it's organised enough to win the ball back, then that's where we're going to get our joy. Otherwise, it'll be tough.
Yeah, some Burnley fans might not like what I'm about to say, but fingers crossed Josh Brownhill is back because I think we need somebody who can sort of like receive the ball on the half turn and things like that. And Josh Brownhill, when he's playing well, can do that. And Josh Brownhill does tend to do well against certain sides, but if he's pressed well and playing against a good midfield, which you've sold your midfield to me there, it can sometimes struggle, to be fair. But anyway, you mentioned some of your grafters and you mentioned some of your players that can receive the ball in tight areas and things like that. Who are the dangerous players? Like if anyone's going to hurt Burnley tomorrow, who's going to do it for Hull?
I think we brought Louis Barry in on loan. I'm really interested. I think he will start against Burnley. Now he's had a bit of longer time in training and stuff. He's obviously scored 15 goals in 20-something games for Stockport this season. Granted, it's in League One, but it's still a really good goal-scoring record, especially for a winger. So I'm hoping he comes into the side and gives us a bit of extra dynamism on that wing and a bit of goal threat where he can cut inside and shoot kind of thing. João Pedro, I don't know if he'll start or not, but if we'd have had him 4 years ago, he gets you 20-plus goals at this level. He's such an intelligent player. He's already a cult hero here. We absolutely love him. He's got an option for a year. Everyone's saying give him another 4. He's 32, but he's absolutely fantastic. Like his footballing intelligence is top notch. You can see that he's played at a really high level before. He drops deep well, collects the ball, brings wingers into the game. He's constant nuisance for centre backs. He's always in the rear, winding them up. So they're always good for a yellow if they're playing against Pedro. But I think he will go for Joseph for that bit of energy and stuff first, and then bring Pedro on when they're tired later on. But yeah, he's our top scorer, Pedro, on 5 so far. Matazzo looked really good against Stoke. Like I say, that was his first full debut for us. He came on briefly off the bench against Sheffield United, but he started against Stoke, got a goal, could have had 2 as well. It was a good save. So he looks like he could be a real threat. But I would say that Barry's the one that we're looking forward to the most because, like I say, the vast majority of the Championship were after him. I think Leeds were after him as well, and we've managed to get him with the owner personally going in and meeting Villa's owner and being like, I think you should let him come here, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm hoping that he can sort of kick on and get a nice early goal and get his confidence up. So he'd be our main danger man at the minute, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll look out for him. I know there were a lot of talk about him over the last transfer window, and I do think that is a decent signing from yourselves. Finally, then, predictions, mate. First one, are Hull going to stay up?
Yes.
Who do you think is going down then? I think Plymouth are gone.
Yeah, Plymouth, I think, and then it'll be between 3 of Derby, Portsmouth, and Swansea. And I think Swansea's a very hot take, but
they're awful form, aren't they?
They're on free fall. They've had a poor transfer window, and the teams below them are picking up points consistently, and that's always a bad combination. I think that sometimes the transfer window can relegate you, and I think Swansea are in real trouble. Because I think Portsmouth at home are really strong. We're strong away from home. Even Plymouth are starting to grind out some results. A really good result against Liverpool as well. I know that's the cup, but the teams below are capable of winning, and Swansea at the minute just don't look like that. So that's my kind of hot take on that one. But I do think it'll be, like I say, Plymouth, Derby, depending on who they bring in. I think Eustace is a really good hire, to be fair. That might change my mind on that one. He might keep them up.
Well done, Derby County. Big shout out to Derby County for that, by the way.
Yeah, I thought I'd drop that one in on a Burnley podcast. I mean, that's ludicrous, isn't it, to go from 6th place to 22nd? But I don't know.
I'm not going to give them any credit at all, but they all run like an absolute shit show. The Venkies have completely ruined them, which is hilarious. And I think that's the reason why. And he played for Derby, and apparently his family's in Derby. But he knew that when he joined Blackburn a year ago, so I don't really buy that. I think it's more to do with the Venkies, but shout out to the Venkies.
But yeah, no, it'll definitely be an interesting one. I think we've got 3 really tough games in a row now. So we've obviously got Burnley away, we've got Norwich at home, and then we've got Sunderland away, and we could find ourselves in the bottom 3 by the end of those 3 games, and that would be a worry. But like we say, all we've got to do is turn the home form around, and we're fine. Because we've got Plymouth to come at home, we've got Oxford to come at home, we've got all the teams down near us to come at our place, which normally would be a good thing, but for us it's like, no, that might relegate us. But no, it'll certainly go down to the wire. I think last game.
Yeah, I think we're similar. If we can sort out our home form, and like I said, I think we've drawn something like 7 games 0-0 at home, which is ridiculous. It might be 6, I can't remember. We've drawn 9 games 0-0 all season. I know that much. If we just turn 4 of them into a 1-0 win, then we're top by a bit of a distance as well. So we're the same. We need to turn our home form around, and then we should be in the top 2. Final one from me. Score predictions, please, mate.
I think, like we say, the money's probably on the 0-0 in it, and I'd happily take that, to be fair. But I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna be optimistic, and I'm gonna say that we managed to grind out a 1-0 win where we spend the last 30 minutes of the game just heading the ball away from whatever Burnley's doing. It'd be a sexy 1-0 win.
If you go 1-0 up, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. I'm not going to give your manager any advice, not that he's watching, but you could send him a text or something. 0-0's not a bad shout, mate. 0-0s are normally around 8-1 if you're a betting man. Under 2.5, I don't know what it is, but I presume it's odds on for Burnley games, to be fair. Because out of the games this season, I bet you at least 80% are under 2.5. I'm going to say similar, but just flip it around. I think Burnley 1-0. I just feel like on paper we have the better players. I do worry about your midfield, and I do worry about your counter attack and Louis Barry as well. It's going to be interesting to see him play in the flesh, because apparently Scott Parker wasn't overly keen on him, so I was told, but I don't know how legit that is. But again, we'll see. But before we do go, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and your Hull City podcast if they want to digest some Hull City content before the match and after the match?
Yeah, so we did used to do opposition previews. We swapped it now, so we've got a radio show in midweek. But if you beat us, we're always good for a listen, because because you always like to listen to the other team's fans moan, I suppose. So we're worth a follow and a listen for that one maybe. But you can find us on YouTube, and we're all your usual audio providers like your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Podchasers, whatever it is you listen to your podcast on. You can find us on there. Just search the Hull and Back podcast.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, mate. It's been a pleasure. Always a good talk. It's good to have you back. Good luck for the rest of the season, just after tomorrow, but a very big good luck for when you play Sunderland, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.